What's going on, guys? My name is Ted, bringing y'all another review today. This time I'm going over the specs on the new best phone. In my opinion, this is going to be the Galaxy Note 2, and this phone is going to be awesome. It was recently announced by Samsung, and it's one of those phones that I can just guarantee you right now, this is going to be the next flagship device. We've never seen specs like this before in any sort of device, and it coming out before Christmas, the release date's unknown, but we're probably looking at an October release date. Means this phone's going to be the next big thing on the market. All the other phones that I've talked about in the past, the LG Optimus G, for example, another beastly phone I've talked about, they're not going to be released until heavily into the next year. This phone is announced and it's ready to come on the market, and let's go over some of the specs in this phone. The first thing about this phone that everyone's going to notice is its massive display. If you saw the last video I posted where before it was officially announced, I told you that it had a 5.3-inch display. This is actually wrong. It's actually got a 5.5-inch display, which is even bigger. 5.5-inch display. Let's take the Galaxy S3 and add another 0.7 inches on top of that. And it's vertical, so it's not as much as you'd think it would be, but it's still a massive display. And to the point where I don't even think girls can fit it in their pockets anymore. Like, girls have these really small pockets. I don't think this is going to be a girl's phone. This is a man's phone. And this is going to be an awesome device. I'm really looking forward to it. 5.5-inch display makes it into the phablet category, meaning it's a phone tablet. It's not quite a tablet, but it's too big to be just a normal phone, and I love phablets because I have really big thumbs, and typing on a screen that's that large is going to be very easy, and that's definitely a plus for anyone that's got big thumbs like myself. Let's get into the screen size now, or I'm sorry, the screen resolution now. We've talked about the screen size being 5.5 inches, and that's a big screen size. So what they had to do now is they had to cut back a few of the pixels, and this is the one negative side to the phone that I really don't like, is I wish I would have seen a higher pixel count. The pixel count for this phone is going to be 1280 by 720, which is very standard. It's a full HD. It's a great looking screen, but it's the same screen resolution that we've seen in the Galaxy S3, which is 0.7 inches smaller. So you've got a lot less pixels per inch. You've got a 267 pixel per inch ratio, as opposed to the Galaxy S3, you've got a 306 pixel per inch ratio. So the screen will not nearly be as crisp, but it'll still be a full HD screen, meaning it's a very impressive screen, just not something that's over the top, which is what I would have expected to see in a device like this. The main reason for this, I've touched base on this in my previous videos, is that the screen is the most expensive part of the phone. All those LEDs and the lights inside of that screen are very expensive, and to keep this phone at a consumer level, you've really got to cut down the number of pixels that you have in that screen. Moving on to the next thing this is going to be featuring that, my opinion, is awesome, is Android Jelly Bean, which is Android 4.1. And this is the newest operating system. I'm glad that we're finally starting to see continual phones pull out with this operating system. In the past, it's always been Jelly Bean was out and then everything got released with Ice Cream Sandwich, which just never made any sense to me. Like, let's install the newest operating system into these new phones. It only makes sense. Instead, they were releasing Ice Cream Sandwich, which is 4.0, and then they just promise you an upgrade, which is just a promise, which is very lofty. It could be anywhere between next week and next year. This one's coming stock with with Jelly Bean, which is the best operating system in my opinion. It's one of the farthest leaps in an operating system we've seen with Project Butter and with all the other cool Google Now, all the other cool attachments to this operating system. It's shaping up to be a beastly operating system and a beastly phone. The other thing I like about this phone is it's very optimizable. So unlike the Nexus 7 or some of the phones that have been released, the 1X and the 1S, they don't allow you to put in a micro SD card, and they don't even allow you to take off the back. This phone comes stock with a 3,100 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty large, but it's got a big screen, so it kind of balances itself out. And then you've also got either 8, 16, 32, or 64 gigs of internal storage, and that's plenty for most people. But the thing for me is I like to be able to customize this. If we go to my Samsung Galaxy S3, I've got a double battery in there, which is the extended battery, and I've also got my 64 gigabyte micro SD card stuffed in there. I love the optimization we're going to have with this Note 2 because you're not stuck with the defaults. You don't have to pay the $50 they're probably going to charge you to upgrade to 64 gigs of memory. Instead, you can go out and buy a relatively cheaper SD card and just stuff it in there and have some external storage. I really like the customization. Also, a 3,100 milliamp hour battery, it just isn't cutting it for you, which it probably won't for most of the power users. You can always go in and install a double battery, and they're going to sell those. Hyperion's my favorite brand, but there's also going to be several other guys that are going to sell these double batteries, which are going to be 6,200 milliamp hours, and just basically gives you eternal battery life, which is really cool. Now on to the next best thing about this phone is it comes with a quad-core 1.6 gigahertz Cortex A9 processor. And Cortex I don't like. I'll be flat out, I don't really like Cortex. They're not quite the Snapdragon S4 Pros that you've seen in the Optimus G, which is coming out next year, but it is still a quad-core processor, which means that it's very powerful. And I love power. I love being able to run so many programs at once. And it's just awesome having so much power stuffed inside of a phone. And with this being a quad-core processor, this is actually going to be the world's first, American first quad-core processor that's compatible with 4T LTE. And I'm not really sure why the other phones couldn't be compatible. I just know that the S3 in Europe had a quad-core, and they had to dummy it down to a dual-core over here in America because we have 4G LTE. Never really made sense to me. I should probably look that up just to fathom a little bit better. But that's that. First phone ever with quad-core processor here in America. I'm really, really excited for that. The other thing I really like about this phone is 2 gigs of RAM, and that's something that the Galaxy S3 sees, but no other phone has this. And 2 gigs of RAM is awesome. You know, multitasking is only used when you have more than 1 gigabyte of RAM. Let's be honest here. If I ever go, at any given time, I'll go inside my task manager, and I'm using more than 1 gigabyte of my RAM. And RAM is random access memory, so it's all those like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all those things that are stuffed in the back of your phone that you press the home button, you're not exiting out of. They're just being sent to the back of your phone. And when your system runs out of memory, it's just going to close all those programs. Well, for me, with 2 gigs of RAM on my S3 and the 2 gigs of RAM that you're going to have on your Note 2, you can just go back to 2 days ago and find a program that you left open. It'll still be there. It'll still be accessible. And you don't have to reload it. It'll just be exactly to the point that you left off on. And that's so cool. It makes multitasking really, really intuitive, and I really, really like that. Another cool thing about this phone is the 50 gigabyte Dropbox storage, which means that say you don't want to go out and buy a micro SD card and you don't really mind having your photos and stuff in a cloud somewhere, if you just want to send them off just to actually have them, but not really on your device, then you get this free 50 gigabyte Dropbox storage. And Dropbox is really cool. I personally love it. I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'll just go send all my photos and videos off to a cloud, and they'll just sit up there. Whenever I want them, I can go and grab them from the cloud. And with this phone, you get 50 gigabytes free, and 50 gigs is a ton. I mean, that's more videos and photos than most people are going to have in a lifetime. That's a lot of storage, and that's going to be really, really nice. The last cool feature about this phone that I'll talk about here, I might go in more in depth later on in a different video when the full specs get released. These are just the ones that were announced. Is the 8 megapixel camera, and this is pretty stock for a phone. They're pretty common for a phone these days, for a high-end phone that is. But 8 megapixel cameras are they're beautiful. I've had my last 4 phones have had 8 megapixel cameras. The S3, the S2, the good lord, 1S and the 1X. All 8 megapixel cameras, and they're all beautiful phones. And the cameras the photos that you get from them are absolutely stunning, more so than a lot of the cameras that I've had in the past. And the thing I like about this is that phones have gotten to the point now where you really don't need to have a camera. There's actually a Galaxy camera coming out later. I'll go over that in a different video. Subscribe and you'll see stuff about that. But you really don't need to have a camera anymore with the level of quality that these phones are taking pictures at. And although there's no released photos yet of the samples and all, you can pretty much go by what the cameras like the S3 and the HTC One S and X, what they're giving out, because it's going to be the same camera inside and the same user interface as is in the Galaxy S3, which is the TouchWiz interface, which I personally really enjoy. So that's that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. More on this coming later when the full specs get released. These are just the ones that got released at IFA in Berlin 2012. So that's that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. I want to post a lot of more Android content, a lot of new cool videos for you guys. So if you want to subscribe, be sure to do so. I'll be here every single day posting up new content. Other than that, guys, have a great day, and I'll catch you all later. Bye.